This conference will now be recorded.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Barbara. Good morning, everyone. My name is Wayne Mitchell. For those of you who don't know who I am, I'm the President and CEO of the Nacogdoches County Chamber of Commerce, and it's a pleasure to have all of you join us this morning. And I suspect we'll see lots of others as we arrive here at the 10 o'clock hour. I do want to let you know this call is being recorded, as you heard a few moments ago, and you can anticipate that as a result of media participation, that there'll be several stories that will be written and on the broadcast media at some point in the next few days. So that's going to be. I just want to let everybody know that the media is a participant on these calls. Do want to let you folks know there's a wealth of information on the Chamber's website at www.nacogdoches.org, and I encourage you folks to visit that site as well. Do have an announcement this morning, a Chamber announcement. We do want to let everybody know that the Chamber is going to be announcing very shortly that we have a limited supply of COVID-19 rapid test kits available. And it'll be, my understanding there's no charge for the kits, but before you are a recipient of the kits, there is some training involved online required by the Department of Human Services, and we'll be sending out more information in the next few hours about these kits. And as I said, there's a limited supply available, so they'll be given out on a first come, first served basis here at the Chamber. I'm pleased this morning to welcome Maria Villareal, I believe. Was that good, Maria?
Yes, that was perfect.
Oh, thank you very much. I did have my coach come in here help me this morning with that, but it's a pleasure to have you with us. Maria is doing some extraordinary work in domestic violence and dealing with folks with sexual assault. She's assisted survivors of sexual assault by providing legal advocacy and crisis intervention. Maria was a supervisor of the Sexual Assault Volunteer Advocate Program, and she accepted the position as a Sexual Assault Human Trafficking Specialist, which she's going to address that topic with us this morning. Here in Nacogdoches, the title of her presentation is Diving into Human Trafficking. This is a very serious issue and a topic that we all need to hear more about and have greater awareness. She majored in criminal justice with a minor in psychology and graduated with a bachelor's degree from Stephen F. Austin State University in December 2016. She graduated with a master's degree in victim services management from Sam Houston State University. I won't ask which team you cheer for.
I'm wearing my SFA jacket.
All right, that's good. But if my counterpart down there in Ray Hernandez had you on the chamber call, I wonder what you'd be wearing down there. But that's she enjoys spending time with her husband, her dog, and her kitty cat. And she enjoys working out, reading a good book, and traveling and spending time with her loved ones. And it is a real pleasure to have you with us this morning, Maria, and we're looking forward to your presentation. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you so much. Let me see. Am I going to share the screen with you?
You may. Barbara, can you arrange that, please?
I made her a presenter. She should be able to do it now.
Okay. Awesome. Can everybody see me?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. So, yes, I'm the sexual assault and human trafficking specialist for the Family Crisis Center. I have been doing this for a little over 4 years. I love what I do. I'm very passionate about what I do. So I am very happy to be here. Thank you all for having me and for listening. So we're going to talk about human trafficking today. And so whenever it comes to human trafficking, and I ask people, so when you hear human trafficking, what do you tend to think about? People tell me, well, kidnappings, abductions, victims are locked away. And so I'm not saying that that answer is completely wrong, because those cases do happen where abduction takes place, the victim's abducted, kidnapped, and then sold. But it's really not the movie Taken. What we tend to see is that the trafficker knows the victim. What we tend to see, it's a family member, it's a boyfriend or a girlfriend, it's a friend of the family, it's somebody that the victim knows. So that's the very first thing that I want to discuss. And I've been in this position for a little over a year, and I have yet to run into that case where the trafficker was a stranger, where he or she kidnapped the victim. So human trafficking involves the use of force, fraud, or coercion to obtain some type of labor or commercial sex. We need one of these three elements to be present in a case. So force can be physical abuse, sexual abuse, abductions, torture. And I do want to say that the traffickers that are doing the physical abuse, the torture, we call those the guerrilla traffickers. Those are the ones that are extremely, extremely abusive and extremely dangerous. There is fraud. There has to be one of these three elements, and one of them is fraud, which is false promises of employment or better pay. There's the deceptive marriages, false promises of a better life. Just anything that has to do with, like, I'm promising a better life, a better pay, but then the victim shows up to that place and they're actually being paid very little, being paid nothing, or being paid through tips. That is a form of human trafficking. That's actually labor trafficking. And coercion, which is the threats. So, like, threatening to kill the victim's family, threatening to harm the victim. Control of documents or children. There's the mental or psychological abuse, which this helps explain how these traffickers keep control of victims. The photography of illegal activity, and etc. So some forms of human trafficking, there's many forms of human trafficking across the world. There's child soldiers, and I just recently went to a training Friday, an educational seminar Friday, and I found out that they're finding child soldiers here now through gang activity. At first, I thought that it was just something that was seen in war-torn countries, but they're actually finding child soldiers within gang activity. There's child marriages. There's labor trafficking, which is victims performing labor or services through force, fraud, or coercion. So where we tend to see this is like domestic servitude, like with nannies or babysitters, and within the agricultural business, within construction sites. Debt bondage, that is where a trafficker recruiter tells the victim, hey, if you come with me to my place of employment, I'll pay you this amount, everything. All you got to pay is $1,000, $500 for your travel. So the victim gets there. Well, because the victim is getting paid very little or only through tips, not at all, they're not able to pay that debt off. But not just that, the victim also has to worry about paying for rent, paying for utilities. So that debt accumulates and they're not able to get away from that debt. And then there's involuntary child labor. There's the removal of organs, which I did hear about a year ago or 2 years ago that Houston was seeing this. And that's where people have their organs removed and then they're being sold in the black market. And then there's the sex trafficking, where victims are engaged in commercial sex acts through the use of force, fraud, or coercion. So I know I talked about that we need these three elements to be present, but whenever it comes to sex trafficking particularly, we don't need any of these elements to be present when the victim is under the age of 18. I know that people call say, oh, well, she or he is a child prostitute. Well, there's no such thing as a child prostitute because children cannot give consent to sexual activities at all, and they definitely cannot give consent to this. And we also don't want to call victims of sex trafficking prostitutes if they're adults, because then we're given this false idea that these victims consented to this. They want to be in this lifestyle when they did it. So where we tend to see this the most is like in strip clubs, massage parlors, escort services, and truck stops. So who are the traffickers? Anybody can be a trafficker. There was a mother who was selling her daughter for drugs. I had a client whose sister recruited her, and then sister's boyfriend started selling her. Anybody can be a trafficker. Familial trafficking, that is something that we do tend to see, like I stated earlier. And with familial trafficking, what we tend to see is that these family members, they are manipulating and coercing the victims. With intimate partner, that's the most common recruitment. I should have put in their trafficking tactic as well. Whenever I went to the training on Friday, I do believe that they said that about 70% of their cases was where 70% of their cases were, it was a trafficker, it was the intimate partner that was trafficking them. It is a close friend or friend of the family. Traffickers usually already have a criminal record. On average, a trafficker will stay in the game for 15 years. So there is slang whenever it comes to human trafficking. So whenever you hear somebody say in the game, what they are saying is that they're actually the pimps. They're the ones manipulating victims. And so being in the game means that I'm the trafficker, or he or she is a trafficker. 55% of traffickers contacted their victims on social media. Social media has created a huge problem when it comes to human trafficking. 50% of traffickers operate on a local level. And the common thread with all these traffickers is that they're willing to exploit someone for their own gain, and they're narcissists. So what are some recruitment methods? It's the false promises of love, support, and safety. So another form of trafficker that we tend to see is the Romeo, the loving trafficker. And this is the one that promises victims like, I'll love you. You'll never have to worry about being abused again. I'll treat you right and everything. These traffickers, that some of these methods they use to recruit people is they feel a void or a need for the victim. And this is particularly true whenever a victim is looking for shelter, whenever a victim is looking for something to survive. A recruiter can be a family or a friend, even a family member, like I stated. One of my clients, her sister recruited her. False promises of career. So I don't know if anybody has seen the documentary over R. Kelly, but I know one of the recruitment tactics that he used and even his recruiters use is promising these victims a career in the music industry. Manipulation, the exploitation through authority, offers of cash or independence, and they're the traffickers or the recruiters, they're offering expensive clothing, jewelry, cars, etc. So I do want to go into this in detail, but I just wanted to provide this for you all if you are interested in learning more about it. The Power and Control Wheel, whenever it comes to human trafficking, provides so much detail as to how these traffickers control their victims. So there's the economic abuse, which they create debt that can never be repaid. There's the physical abuse, which is the shoves, the slaps, the hits. There's the sexual abuse, and there's just so many forms that these traffickers use to control their victims. So who are the victims? Most of them, if not all of them, they have some sort of vulnerability. So they're either homeless, they're poor, they were previously victimized before becoming a victim of human trafficking, and that is something that I do see with my clients. A lot of them, if not all of them, have told me that they were previously victims of physical abuse or sexual abuse. They're chronic runaways. So one thing that I always say is if you know of a child who was making straight A's and then, was athletic and everything, and they stop, they start exhibiting bad behavior, they start doing bad in school. That is something to be on the lookout for, because what tends to happen is that these victims, these minors, they start running away from home, but they're not running away because they want to, or they just want to behave bad. They're running away because something is going on at home. And these traffickers know that. So these traffickers know to look out for that lonely child and start developing that bond with them. They're coming from unstable homes. They have drug addictions. That is something that I do see a lot, is that a lot of these victims, they have a drug addiction, either because they're trying to not think about the reality, not think about their situation, or the trafficker got them addicted to a drug as a form of control. There are undocumented immigrants. The average age of entry into the life is 12 to 14 years old. So whenever you hear the life, somebody say, oh, I'm in the life, they mean that they're actually no longer victims. So they're in the life as a prostitute, so to say, but we know that there really are sex trafficking victims. The average lifespan of a victim once they have entered the life is 7 years. That is extremely, extremely short. And that the reason why is because a lot of these victims, they have an STI, they have some sort of medical situation where they haven't been able to go to the doctor, or they get severely beaten and tortured to the point of murder. And one thing that I do want to talk about is that whenever these victims, if they're able to get away, which they can get away, but once they're able to get away, then what they tend to face is that maybe they're being shunned from their family because their family thinks that they're prostitutes or that they did something illegally. They're shunned from the community, or they see that because they went back to being homeless or being poor, they probably feel like, well, I need to go back to like selling myself, and then they're probably going to go back to the trafficker because that's what they know. That's how they know to survive. So some signs of human trafficking, we call it branding. Branding is like the way for other people to know, specifically traffickers, to know that this person is a property of this one particular trafficker. So what we tend to see are crowns, thrones, the word daddy, the trafficker's name. Homeland Security stated that Black Rose is becoming a trend, and other forms of branding. There's the lack of eye contact, which is particularly true if the victim is a female trying to talk to a male, because in the human trafficking world, making eye contact with the male means that you want that male to be your next pimp, your next daddy. They're not dressed for the weather. They cannot speak for themselves. They get nervous or fearful when law enforcement officials get brought up or are brought in. And that is true because these traffickers, they tell the victims, you can't go to law enforcement and make a report because you've sold yourself, you have done this and everything. So traffickers are telling victims ahead of time, you can't go to law enforcement because they're not going to believe you. Chronic runaways, excessive numbers of hotel keys, they owe money to their supervisor or boss, they're being constantly supervised, and they're living and working in the same building, and they're not provided with proper safety equipment. So businesses combating human trafficking. Business owners should have their staff train about human trafficking every year or every 2 years if possible. Because human trafficking, it is evolving, it's constantly evolving, so we have to constantly be trained so that we can know what's going on, what the trends are. Provide guidance to staff on how to report and respond if necessary. So report to local law enforcement if you believe that you're seeing something suspicious. You can also report to the National Human Trafficking Hotline Center at that number, or text to 233-733. If you do decide to make a report and they tell you, well, you know, the information you provide is not enough, but we'll keep it documented. They will keep it documented because if somebody else calls in that human trafficking hotline center and they make a report on the same individual or same situation, then they're going to launch an investigation with local law enforcement. And if the victim is a child and staff believes the trafficker could be at home or in proximity of the child, make a CPS report. Block certain websites advertising sex from your free Wi-Fi, and also recognize the signs for your own specific business. So some signs of human trafficking in business setting. These victims will be hidden in plain sight. I know that people tend to think that these victims are locked away, they're chained up in homes, but no, they're still going out, they're still going to school, they're still shopping. So traffickers may come off as a family member or a friend, So one thing to watch out for is if somebody else is doing the talking for that one individual, because these traffickers are controlling. They will talk for the victim, they will constantly supervise the victim, and they will control all of the transactions and documents. There's large amount of cash that you see. I did have one client come in, and whenever she opened up her backpack, I saw a bunch of fives, a bunch of tens. Large amount of cash is a red flag. Hotel staff should watch out for individuals asking for rooms far away from the reception area, excessive phone calls to and from the room, and multiple male guests going to one room. Also should watch out for foot traffic and vehicle traffic by outward doors. So like any of the doors that are not main entrances, just be on the lookout for any of the foot traffic or vehicle traffic as well. Another red flag to watch out for is if one man is registered to one room with several females, and adjoining rooms are booked together with flanking rooms registered to another room. And that is because the flanking rooms could be used to block any noises from any other rooms. So those rooms would be used to block out any noises of abuse going on or any suspicious activity. And also, if there's any excessive condoms or needles or medicine or drugs, obviously in the room. Some additional red flags. So victims may not know where they are. I had a client tell me that she thought she was going out in the Houston area, but she was actually going to Dallas. That is a huge red flag because traffickers, they will tell the victims, you're going over here, but they actually end up somewhere else. So that way, if they do make a report or if they do say something, they're less likely to be understood. Be on the lookout for tattoos that can symbolize that the woman or the man is property. One myth is that people tend to think that only women can be trafficked or exploited, but men can be too. The victim may be accompanied by the trafficker or the bottom. So the bottom, that is the woman that is supervising all of the other girls. Because these traffickers, they tend to have a stable, meaning that they have more than one victim. Traffickers know that if they can keep a stable in order, then they can make thousands of dollars in one night. So just be on the lookout for somebody who is talking for somebody else or exhibiting really controlling behavior. Like I stated earlier, the large amount of cash, the victim may appear nervous or anxious, and a place that may have cameras watching who comes and goes, buzzes individuals into tinted windows. Right now, Houston's having a problem with massage parlors acting as fronts. They come off as like, yeah, we'll give you a massage and everything, but depending on the business, people can like do certain codes, say certain codes, and then they'll go to the back where a victim is there to sexually assault them. So human trafficking in Texas and in our area. I don't know if y'all heard of the Texas Triangle or the Red Triangle, but it consists of the Dallas, Houston, and San Antonio area, as well as the College Station, Austin area, and every single town, city in between there. This is where we're getting a lot of the reports coming from. I don't know if y'all know this, but right now, Texas is the #2 state for most human trafficking cases reported. I do think that in a couple of years, it'll be #1. Right now, California is the #1 state for most human trafficking cases being reported. Here in Texas particularly, we have multiple interstates. We have the I-10 corridor. We have US 59. And I found out that our area, Lufkin, Nacogdoches, East Texas area, it's like a pit stop for traffickers because these traffickers, they're probably trying to get their victims from Houston to Tyler. I hear that a lot. I hear a lot of victims coming from Houston. They're taking them from Houston to Tyler or to Dallas, but then they're stopping possibly in our area to rest or for something. So then they can be exploited for that one night or 2 nights. These traffickers know that they always have to make money. So these victims are always being exploited. And these are my sources. So yeah, I finished just on time. Yeah, thank you all for listening. And I'm looking forward to doing this again. Does anybody have any questions?
Well, thank you, Maria, so much for that information and those resources for businesses. I think will be very helpful to businesses that we represent, and I'll make sure that we get copies from you in case anybody would request them. Any questions of Maria? Well, I think you've done a great job, very thorough job of giving us an update. I believe last month was Trafficking Month. Is that not correct, Maria?
Yes, January is known as Human Trafficking Awareness Month, and we did multiple events, and we did a walk at SFA, and it was great. So we're looking forward to doing it again next year.
That's great. Well, I hope you'll feel free to contact us if we can help in any way in getting your messaging out and helping to reduce the threat from this very difficult dynamic. We really appreciate you joining us this morning.
Thank you.
And I hope you'll stay online and enjoy the call. I
Sure will.
do see that we're fortunate to have the city manager, Mario Canizares, on the phone this morning. Good morning, Mario.
Hey, Wayne. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. I'm not Larissa Philpott, but I am using her computer. We're actually in the same room. We just completed a meeting with all of our managers, so I'm borrowing her laptop so I can just give a quick report. Today we've got a city council meeting starting at 5:30. We have a few things on the agenda, relatively short agenda. We do have an MOU or memorandum of understanding item on today's agenda with the National Red Cross, American Red Cross here in Nacogdoches. They utilize an office here at City Hall, which we are glad to have, and we're looking at extending that by an additional year. The other thing that's happening today is we're calling the election for the May election, which consists of the mayor, Northeast Ward, and Northwest Ward for the city. So that'll be presented today. And then the other thing that we're going to be presenting for City Council is just a quick discussion with them of our financial advisor to talk about the bond markets. The bond markets for the last 12 months or so are historically low interest rates. And so while it's not necessarily great to, as an investor, it's a great time to borrow. So we're just trying to give council a perspective of what's happening in the bond market so that they are apprised of what their options are when it comes to funding future projects. So with that, Wayne, I don't have much else to report and turn it back over to you.
Great. Well, thank you, Mario. Appreciate it. I want to thank you again for all the work you folks have done post snowstorm. I've been amazed at how quickly you've helped Nacogdoches clean up from that difficult situation. So.
Oh, hey, Wayne, one quick thing. I think you may have on the agenda Jessica Sal. I don't think she's going to be able to make it. She's over at Pilgrims right now and working with them on some COVID vaccine issues. So just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you, Mario. She was kind enough to send me an update on some of the numbers, which I'll share a little bit later. She said that there were 29 confirmed cases and 2 probable COVID cases since our last report. And that leaves us with an estimated 290 active cases in our community. And if anybody wants the resources, just email me at the chamber and I'll forward that report to you. Thank you very much, Mary. I appreciate that. And while we're speaking of Larissa Philpott, I believe she might be available. She's the president of NEDCO this morning. And Larissa, good morning.
Good morning, Wayne. Thanks for having me. Not a whole lot to report today, just a little bit about sales tax. There was a small dip in sales tax here locally, small dip in sales tax on a statewide level. But the good news is that appears to be trending upward on a statewide level. So we're excited about that. Everything that I've seen still shows recovery not until probably 2022. But considering the depth of the downturn, I think 2 years is not terrible time for a turnaround. And just a quick note, we are planning with our friends at the Chamber some upcoming small business seminars, one of which will be employment during COVID. Questions about, can I require my employees to receive vaccines? Just trying to answer some of those questions about all of those new employment rules regarding sick time and vaccination and things like that. So keep your eyes open for that. Also keep your eyes open for more vaccine clinics. Those are slowly but surely filtering down. We have heard from our friends in the medical community that things appear to be getting better organized regarding vaccine deployment. We are hoping that once we get through our 1A and 1B populations, that we'll be able to start working with large employers. Some of those employers that were maybe hard hit during the pandemic, employers of essential employees, and work with them on doing vaccine clinics in the future. But we will certainly be in contact with those businesses. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you, Larissa. Larissa, from your colleagues and your contacts in Austin, have you heard about any threats of increases in sales tax to help address the $1 billion shortfall that they anticipate?
I have not heard that. I think with the Republican legislature or conservative legislature, I think tax increases are probably pretty dead on arrival. That doesn't mean that somebody won't file a bill that will do that, but I don't think that bill would be super successful with the current makeup. That doesn't mean that there won't be unfunded mandates passed down through the legislature to local school districts, local cities, counties. So that doesn't mean a tax increase won't occur. It just probably wouldn't be in sales tax.
Great, thank you, Larissa. Thanks for that report. I'm pleased to welcome this morning from the office of Governor Greg Abbott, Betty Rosella, our regional representative. Good morning, Betty.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you're doing well. Just segueing off what Larissa just said, the governor's state of the state was last night, and y'all probably listened in on it, but I'm going to touch on some of his high points. He laid out his emergency items for the 2021 legislature. One of them is broadband access, yay. One of them is defunding police, public safety, election integrity, and civil liberty protections. That the civil liberty protections came out of the pandemic. He just wants things to be better for the small businesses and individuals and healthcare providers that operated safely through the pandemic. And some other high points the governor brought up was he wants a law this session that prevents any government entity from shutting down religious activities. He wants to erect a complete barrier against any government office anywhere from treading on gun rights. He wants a law that ensures that the life of every child will be spared from abortion. He wants, he said, another important milestone is helping the millions of businesses and workers who have been impacted by the pandemic. He wants to balance the budget without increasing taxes. That's what he wants. We'll see what the legislators do, as Larissa was stating. He will continue working with the legislature to find ways to navigate a pandemic while also allowing businesses to remain open. He says Texas prides itself on low regulations, but our response to the crisis revealed more regulations than can be cut. So he wants to see if some of those regulations can be eased to cut the red tape and unleash the full might of the Texas economy. And one interesting thing, I had heard this previous to the state of the state, but Texas is now the 9th largest economy in the entire world. We were 10th. I forget which country we surpassed. I don't remember. I'll have to look that up again. Okay, outside of the state of the state, there is a webinar on the Texas ABLE program. The ABLE program is Texas Achieving a Better Life Experience. It's a state's tax advantage savings plan for eligible Texans with disabilities. If there are some webinars coming up, if you want more information on that, let me know and I can send a link. The state sales tax revenue totaled $3.1 billion in January, which was 0.3% less than in January 2020, but still pretty good for all we've been through. There's some more information on that too from the article if anyone is interested in that. I guess that's about it for me. And I always appreciate y'all for having me on here. It means a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Betty. Any questions of Betty? Well, thank you, Betty. We appreciate that update, and I suspect the governor's state of the state address is online if anybody's interested in watching it. So I'm pleased to welcome this morning the director of the Nacogdoches Convention and Visitors Bureau, Sherry Cheney Morgan. Good morning, Sherry.
Good morning, everybody. Let's see, let me pull up my notes. Last week, staff attended virtually the Texas Association of Convention and Visitor Bureaus midwinter conference and walked away with a lot of great information as it pertains to the recovery of the hospitality industry post-COVID. So industry research predicts the following for the next 3 months. Average number of reported trips is starting to go up. Americans currently plan on taking an average of 2.8 leisure trips this year, and in those trips expect to spend on average about $1,500. Millennials plan to spend a little more on average compared to older travelers, and the greatest volume of these leisure trips are likely to take place between May and August of 2021. There's been a modest increase in travel to cities and beaches, as well as state and regional recreational areas and mountain destinations. Right now, scenic beauty, such as we have here in beautiful Nacogdoches County, outdoor activities in warm weather, beach destinations, national parks, and road trips are the top travel experiences Americans are looking for. Younger travelers, both millennials and Gen Xers, are showing more interest in big city experiences and travel to foreign countries compared to boomers. And that falls right in line with what we're seeing unfold before us at the Visitor Center here in downtown Nacogdoches every day. The majority of American travelers miss festivals and live events. Over half of Americans who attend festivals and live events expect that they will feel comfortable traveling to attend them again by September of this year, with millennials expressing the highest propensity to feel comfortable with travel by then. Concerts and music-related events are the types of events those polled express the most interest in wanting to attend in 2021. Current and continuing trends in travel, people are traveling in pods, so not necessarily families, but it might be two retired couples that have sort of quarantined together and they feel comfortable, have a reasonable sense of assurance of safety with those groups. Nomadic life, people that are choosing to live and work from the road. Mindful and sustainable life travel balance. People are really now more than ever, as they're looking at living in smaller places and being able to be more mobile, they are looking for more eco-friendly ways in which to live and are showing a higher inclination to frequent businesses that share a similar interest in reducing our carbon footprints and moving forward. RV travel really spiked when COVID unfurled this last year, and that is going to continue to be a travel trend, RV travel. And then lastly, experiential travel, things such as tours, workshops, make and takes, VIP access, things of that nature. So not just a destination, but an experience within that destination. It's taking it to another deeper level. An example of this here at the Visitor Center at the end of February, we'll be hosting a make your own wreath workshop with a regional renowned crafter. So different things like that. So questions to ask yourself in response to the facts that I've listed off here this morning. Does the physical setup of my business allow for pod travel with ease? And what about multi-generational travel? Look at things such as your accessibility, your hours of operation, your seating options, lodging options, proximity to other similarly serving businesses. Another question, do I have assets or services that would benefit a nomadic worker? Do I offer free Wi-Fi? Do I have meeting space? Do I have space that I could carve out for private Zoom call rooms? Do I have room to serve as or install package lockers? Could I be a base mailing address or mail forwarding service or virtual assistant services? What special needs to RV travelers, what special needs do those RV travelers have that I could easily provide with only a slight adjustment to my current business model? We know that they have very small kitchens, limited means by which to cook food. So, you know, are your takeout containers, are they now oven friendly or microwave friendly or campfire friendly? The size of your takeaways, specific items if you are a retail place that sells items. How transparent am I in communicating my environmental friendly efforts? And if you're unsure, think of 3 small steps that you could take. And that could look like offering digital receipts or menus, digital list of services, one-time use containers. I know I recently was shopping for a trip, and now you can get toothpaste pills and mouthwash pills that come in a glass jar. And then when you've depleted that, you don't buy another glass jar full of pills. You get a biodegradable bag of more pills that you use in that glass container, and you continue the usage of that. Biodegradable or no straws, energy saving lights. So it doesn't have to be a grand gesture, it can be small things, but especially when it comes here, the small things could add up to loyal customers and eventual big profits. How can local businesses leverage goods and services and relationships? Over the weekend, I took my kids to Dunkin' Donuts through the drive-through, and I noticed something really neat on the bottom corner of their window. And they had leveraged their business partnerships in a little vinyl cling. And so it said that they use Safeguard soap, they use Comet cleanser. And it got me thinking about how could we do that here in Nacogdoches to sort of highlight our locally owned and operated businesses. So for instance, here at the Charles Bright Visitor Center, our technology needs are provided for us by NacSpace. So is there a signage that we could put that somewhere? Our promotional items that we sell are t-shirts. Those are done by Spirit Outfitters. Again, can we highlight those businesses and sort of leverage their placement here and create these mutually beneficial dynamics? Our janitorial supplies are purchased by Tejas, our security monitoring, our locksmith services. It takes a village for each one of our businesses to remain open. Is there an opportunity here that we can really highlight those behind the scenes partnerships that aren't necessarily that evident? So these are just some questions to be thinking as we move more into a recovery for tourism, since it is such a vital economic driver for us here. These are some questions that you can start asking yourself, and I challenge you to look for those in businesses that you frequent moving forward. Lastly, I am honored to announce our very first Bright Star recipients. To celebrate and commemorate our 25th anniversary in 2021 and to honor the legacy of Charles Bright, for whom the Visitor Center is named for, we have decided to highlight one individual in one business every month who help to really reinforce our tourism efforts here in Nacogdoches. Our individual award recipient this month is Taylor Bradford from Front Porch Distillery. Taylor is a creative genius, and she has no shortage of very creative, timely, popular, and engaging events that she does to drive traffic to Front Porch. And then for the business, the Cottage Wine Bar. Ben Sullivan has outdone himself in quality of product as well as quality of service in this little upscale oasis adjacent to downtown. He has been extraordinarily attentive to his customer base and fluid in establishing and changing and tweaking his hours of operation around the demand that his customer base and clients are telling him. So Congratulations, Taylor and Ben at the Cottage Wine Bar. We'll be in contact with you shortly to give you your prize packages. And remember to nominate as you go about your daily business. Nominate those that you feel are deserving to be highlighted as a Nacogdoches Bright Star. Thank you so much and have a great week.
Thank you, Sherry. Appreciate that. I'm pleased to welcome to the call this morning Travis Clardy, Representative Travis Clardy, all the way from Austin, Texas. Good morning, Representative Clardy.
Good morning, Wayne, and everybody back home in Nacogdoches. Good to be with you. I'll be brief with my comments this morning. Session is starting and rolling right along, but there's not a whole lot to do under current circumstances. We'll be back on the floor officially next Tuesday and Wednesday, but I guess the big news this week, and I think we've already had this addressed, but Governor Abbott spoke last night, really first time to my knowledge, in a public forum, televised throughout the state with the State of the State address, highlighted 5 different areas he has designated as emergency items, all of which I support, and that we will be working towards. Hopefully, that means we can take these things up immediately and before the bill filing deadline, and kind of put those priorities ahead of others as we move forward. Particularly pleased to see rural broadband identified as one of those needs, and there's been a lot of activity on that. So very pleased with the start of the session. I've had good conversations with Speaker Phelan. In fact, I'm about to go meet with one of his general counsel on some bill issues, et cetera, for lunch. So the work continues. Wish I was back home. It's a beautiful day in Austin, but it's a more beautiful day in Nacogdoches, I'm sure. So with that, I do want to remind everybody on Fridays, I have renewed my Friday afternoon chats. We'll take up some things. We'll certainly cover kind of updates on the COVID issue. I've been in communications with our hospitals and local providers, with our community health service about access to vaccines, but really, comparatively to other parts of the state, Nacogdoches really is doing very well as a per capita on our vaccines. And that's really a credit to Judge Sal and our emergency folks and our firemen and our EMS people and our hospitals and healthcare providers. SFA has led out, providing that vaccination program. And it's really been done in concert with dishes with the state. So I'm very pleased with what we're doing. When you add the number of people who've had it and are recovered in our county, plus the folks who've been vaccinated and are now many who are getting their second doses, we're probably at about, if I'm guesstimating, well over 20% of our total population between infected but having antibodies and those who have been vaccinated. So that's also reflected happily in our hospitalization numbers and ICU usage, and that should continue to trend down. So I think we're seeing, a dramatic improvement of the situation, but as we all know, still serious, still deadly. Take our precautions. And then finally, I would add that this Friday, as we get into our Friday chats, invite you to join on Travis for Texas on FaceTime Live. We're going to be promoting that out and probably expanding the platform. And we'll take up, in addition to just the nuts and bolts, meat and potato stuff that we do in Texas state government, I am want to endeavor to go into issues that may be more controversial and stir the pot a little bit and get people thinking out of the box some. So we'll try to be entertaining, and I'll also hold it to 30 minutes so you don't have to listen to me any more than you have to. So with that, I will turn it back over. Be happy to answer any questions now, or you can wait and talk to me on Friday.
Thank you, Representative Clardy. Any questions, Representative Clardy? Well, as a great sign that things are returning to normal in this world, Tom Brady is once again in the Super Bowl. So I just want
it's not the Cowboys, Wayne. It's been 25 years since the Cowboys were in a Super Bowl, and that's something we have to rectify.
Well, you guys had your shot at him when he was a free agent a few months ago. So
yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
hey, but I'm going to jump off the call. Jerry Jones is on here, but I've got to get on another Zoom call in my chief's office. So it's great to see everybody, and we'll talk soon.
Great to see you too, sir. Good luck down in Austin.
All right, bye-bye.
For the purpose of a regional report, would you welcome Nancy Wyndham, the President and CEO of the Texas Forest Country Partnership. Good morning, Nancy.
Good morning. Can you hear me okay, or is there a lot of feedback? Is it
Good.
good? Okay, thank you. Well, I thought Sherry had the best segue to something I was going to say, but maybe it was Travis. I'll begin with saying my hometown of Garrison, which is in Nacogdoches County, talking about the Super Bowl, but their basketball team, our basketball team, because we're all this together, has won the district championship, and it's the first time since 1994. So we have to celebrate a lot of things, but we're very pleased that they've won that. But anyway, that was just a little segue. And then back to Sherry. Sherry mentioned a lot of things I wanted to bring to people's attention. When we're out looking to create new jobs and working with site selectors and developers, the things that she has mentioned that we need to focus on is very, very important. And to be able to prove up some of the things that we're doing to provide a better place for companies to expand and relocate to, those are deal makers and they're deal breakers. So it's good to hear all these great reports about what we're doing. It's sometimes the little things that make a difference. It's not all about incentives. People are looking at projects in a different way. I guess everybody's experiencing that we're going to have to do business and communicate in a different way. And that's what the Texas Forest Country Partnership was talking about the other day. And Wayne is one of our brand new board directors and was on a workshop with us the other day, and looking forward to expanding our touch throughout the region with our chambers of commerce on various things. We're trying to share more information as we receive it from the state, from other regional groups, and from our lobbyists that represent the economic development. So Wayne, and sending those to Wayne Kelly in the chamber so they can share back out with you. I would encourage each and every one of you to stay on top of what's going on right now in the session. Everybody, I don't think we can stress it. We've got to stand up for rural Texas. We've got to stand up for Deep East Texas and for our forest country region. One of the things I found interesting, I followed the Texas Tribune plus a lot of other things talking about different things going on in the legislature, but this may have been mentioned earlier in the call before I got on, but the House Bill 3, as we're all watching, the cost of the new school finance law, it continues to increase. Right now, it's over $351 million over projection. So let's do the best we can to stay on top of that and keep our antennas up. As a region, we are actively supporting law enforcement grants from the Mike Claude, who is the director of the DETCOG public safety programs. We're working closely with him on providing support letters for grant money for support for law enforcement. And as I reported the last time, they're still getting in equipment for the connectivity for those law enforcement officers that are out in the field within our region. The equipment keeps coming in, and right now they're storing it at TETA. Another project that we're closely watching right now in St. Augustine County, there is a proposed toxic waste project. We are not a lobbying organization, but providing information to help our region keep us safe from projects that would be detrimental to not only our citizens, but to the environment itself, not just for today, but for years to come. I think that's very important to stay on top of that. We are moving forward with an aggressive plan to identify some larger tracts of lands. We have been getting a lot of project leads requesting for 100+ acres, as I know Larissa has reported on that in previous calls, but also existing buildings. So we're trying to do a better job of staying on top of what we have for inventory and keeping the governor's office, Betty, and economic development and tourism aware of that and what each of our counties have. Also, we received, and Larissa may have also done this, but for Nacogdoches County. I know Nacogdoches City itself is over the population criteria, but we did receive and continue to receive information about grant opportunities. There's one coming in from a Jane Muser Fund. It's rural arts initiatives and environmental initiatives that can be very helpful for some of the smaller communities in Nacogdoches County and throughout our region, and we'll keep pushing that information out. Also, to conclude my report, just wanted to report that Southeast Texas, and this is our regional of high school fishing groups of high school fisher persons, girls and guys, that we had 500 teams participating. No, let me remove. There was a big bass tournament on Lake Sam Rayburn, and there was 500 high school teams. And as of all of the regions in the United States, the Southeast Texas group, which is what we're in, we have the largest group of fisher persons from high school students to participate. So that's a huge driver for not only tourism, but it brings people into our area to experience what we do have, and hopefully they will come and want to stay and pay taxes and have a new job. So we need to stay on top of everything. So with that, I will conclude. We're almost at the end point, but thank you for the opportunity to be a part of this call.
Thank you, Nancy, for that update. Any questions for Nancy? If not, certainly last but not least, my friend Les Linebarger from the NASD. Good morning, Les.
Good morning, Wayne. Thanks for having me on. It's good to see everyone. On Friday and Saturday, Nacogdoches High School will host the regional solo and ensemble band contest. Several nearby school districts will have students participating, performing both solo pieces of music and in small groups. Obviously, this is going to look a lot different than it has in the past. Students will be kept separated as much as possible throughout the high school facilities, and social distancing will be enforced at all times, even when groups are performing in front of judges. And there are some other semblances of normalcy, even during these difficult times, and one of those is the continued dominance of our Nacogdoches High School swim teams. Both swim teams again won district championships last month. That's 19 in a row for our men and 17 in a row for the women's team. And up next for our swimmers is the regional meet that will be held Saturday in Louisville, which is located between Dallas and Denton over in North Texas. Wayne, that's all I've got. Thank you very much.
Well, and again, congratulations to those outstanding swim teams. That's a wonderful accomplishment, and we wish them well in that meet coming up. I do want to acknowledge the fact that my friend Gary Ashcraft graciously offered to suspend his report this morning, but Gary Lee, I will let you know that next week I will put you up on the agenda and we'll give you ample time to bring to all of our attention the great work that you folks at the Nacogdoches Area United Way are doing.
Thank you, Wayne. I thought that'd be appropriate. Now I have my report ready for next Tuesday. But just a quick note that Gary Ashcraft and Charlotte Gibson are married, and we just seem to be going by different names for this call, just in case you're wondering about that. That's fine, Charlotte. Just go ahead and keep it that way. See you all next Tuesday. That's right. And I suspect there's an attorney on the call someplace here to help you folks work out this disagreement. So, again, I want to thank first of all Maria for that very important and serious presentation this morning on human trafficking, and you certainly elevated all of our knowledge. And if you would, some of those slides, I suspect I'll get requests here to Chamber. If you could forward some of those to us, that would be great. I do want to let you folks know. Go ahead, Maria.
I wanted to say just thank you for having me, and thank you all for listening. It was very helpful for all of us, and I also want to let you know that next week our colleagues and friends from Burke will give us an update on the mental health situation, another very extraordinarily important issue. And with the legislative session going on, we'll look forward to that presentation as well.
We thank all of you folks for taking time out of your very busy schedules to join us today. And we wish you a successful and prosperous week. Thank you very much.